Well, we get a twofer this month at the Thomas Crane Public Library. Birds, the Epic Adventures of a Massachusetts Bird Photographer is the subject of the art exhibit that's on display for the month of February. It's also the topic of the presentation on Monday, February the 12th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. by Peter Christoph, who's here right now to tell us about his exhibit and about this presentation. So, Peter, very nice to meet you, and welcome to Quincy.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, too.
You are
happy to be here.
A professional wildlife photographer.
I am.
Okay. How did that happen?
Well, I was in advertising for about 20 years, print advertising and web design.
Here in Massachusetts?
In Massachusetts, yeah.
Okay.
I worked with people like Martha Stewart and Sears and some drugstores. And shooting birds is much more fun than working with Martha Stewart.
Why is that?
She's a little nitpicky.
Ah, okay.
Move this over a little bit that way, move this up that way.
So birds is your specialty?
Yeah, so now I photograph birds. That's my livelihood.
Okay.
So I'll speak at camera clubs, libraries. I give workshops to people. Like if someone wants to go out and see snowy owls, I'll take them to the coast, or if they want to see woodpeckers. You know, any kind of workshop that people are interested in doing.
Okay. So did you study that as a career path?
No. Interestingly, there is really no place to go study to become a wildlife photographer.
Okay.
They don't really teach it anywhere.
Interesting.
It's more like trial by fire.
I see. Okay.
So I've just learned as I go.
Really? Have you always been interested in photography, though?
No, I had no interest in photography years ago because I didn't want to shoot with film.
Okay.
And I didn't want to, do that stuff in the darkroom. I know a lot of people find it a lot of fun and interesting, but I was never into it. So I got a digital camera for the first time in 1999. When my daughter was born, I wanted to photograph her. So that's how I got into photography, with the digital camera.
Okay. All right. And how did that lead into a career in this
Well,
field?
I lucked out. The first picture I ever took with that digital camera, I took it out of the box to figure out how to use it. I took a picture of my porch. I had some old antique tools on the porch. And I said, I'm going to put this into a photography contest at the Sterling Fair. And it won first place.
Wow.
The first picture I ever took. So I said, wow, I'm pretty good at this. So I kept on doing it. And pretty soon I was doing product photography for the advertising agency that I worked for.
Okay.
And so that's how I made a living. And then eventually I got into doing the birds, because that was my passion, photographing birds.
Interesting. Why was that? Had you always been interested in birds then?
No, I was never interested in birds as a kid.
Okay.
My brother Roy, he was interested in birds, and he dragged me out there to see the birds. Like, I remember when you were like 7, he's like, Peter, get up. We're going to go see some owls that are hooting in the backyard. So at 3 in the morning we got up and we went outside and we laid down in the grass in the orchard listening for the owls. And of course our parents are back home and they're getting up and it's like, where's Roy and Peter? Where's Roy and Peter? They're not in their beds.
Right.
So we were out back listening for owls.
Of course, where most kids would be, right?
And he dragged me along to see ospreys at Plum Island and this kind of stuff, and I had no interest in it.
Really?
So eventually I got the interest in it after I got my own camera.
Mm-hmm.
I started photographing birds because I just wanted to do better in photographically, and I thought birds was something that would be more of a challenge.
Okay.
Because you have to sneak up on them and you have to work at it.
So since, have you developed a passion for birds and
Yes.
photography?
Now I can call myself a birder.
Yeah.
A true birder, where I'm learning what the sounds of the birds are, and I'm starting to check off on the list like the birders do and see how many birds I can find in a year.
All right. So it's all your brother's fault then.
It is.
But obviously it's been successful for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, you teach also, right? This particular field?
I do. I don't teach classes, but I do the workshops.
Okay.
Where I take people out, show them how to use their camera, take better pictures of birds. Yeah. But I'm a substitute teacher. On the side, I'm a substitute teacher at a local school where I live.
Oh, all right.
So it kind of fills in the spots where I'm not out doing the bird photography.
Yeah. So when I think of a wildlife photographer, I'm thinking National Geographics.
That's what people say every time I post a picture. They're like, you should be a National Geographic.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's really not that easy. I think they only have like 5 full-time staff there.
Okay. Okay. So where do you go to do your photographs, and what is your inspiration? When do you do it? So tell us a little bit about the life of Peter Christoph.
Yeah, most of the time it's in Massachusetts.
Okay.
There's a lot of local swamps that I've found near where I live.
Swamps. Okay.
Yeah, half of my bird photos are in swamps.
Okay.
And most people are like, why would you want to go to a swamp? But that's where the birds are, because there's lots of dead trees there. So you have all the cavity dwellers like the bluebirds, the woodpeckers, and things that live in the holes in a tree.
I see.
And I like to go to the ocean, to Plum Island.
Yeah, it's
A lot
beautiful.
of sea ducks there and stuff. And occasionally I'll go down to Florida, to the Everglades. A lot of different birds there.
Okay. What has been the most surprising bird that you photographed, would you say, that you didn't expect?
The great gray owl.
Ah,
The great gray owl came down from Canada last winter, and he was in Newport, New Hampshire, 2 hours away from me.
okay.
And he was there for almost 2 weeks.
Just one?
Just one.
Oh, okay.
And I remember the day that I saw him on the Sugar River Rail Trail. It was about 5 degrees below zero. I walked in for 2 miles, and I saw this owl. I didn't see the owl, but I waited in a little pine grove, and he flew in, and he landed right next to me. So it was like a gift. A lot of these birds are gifts. They just show up.
Is there a bird out there that's been elusive that you're dying to photograph?
There's still an elusive bird that I want to get, and it's the wood duck babies coming out of their nest. They nest in a tree cavity. So I want to get a wood duck baby jumping out of the hole someday.
Okay, all right. So talk to us, first of all, about the exhibit at the library this month. What will it include? How many pieces?
Okay,
What
so
can
there's
folks expect?
36 metal prints.
Okay, metal prints.
Yep, printed on aluminum.
Oh,
And the two sizes, 16 by 20 and 20 by 24.
oh, large, okay, yeah.
Yep. And there are 36 of my favorite bird photographs
Okay,
that will be up there for the whole month of February. Taken, some of them, like I said before, in Florida, most of them in Massachusetts.
and are there, captions to tell folks what the birds
No,
are? No.
I'm going to leave it up to people to figure out what they are.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Do they walk around with an index card and
Yeah.
guess? Or is that? Are you?
No,
no. Okay.
no. The birders will probably figure out what they are, but the rest
Right.
of the people will have to look it up on the internet, like I
Okay.
did. Yeah,
Take
that's
pic-
how I.
Take pictures of them with their smartphones, probably, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, that's how I've learned most of my birds. Is since I wasn't a birder first, I was a photographer first.
Yeah.
I go out and I photograph the birds, and then it's fun to go home and look them up on the internet and see what bird is this. And now, as time goes on, I don't have to look up to see what bird it is anymore. But I think that's a good way to identify birds, is to photograph it and then go back home and look up to see what it was.
Interesting. Okay. So I'm curious, why aluminum? How does that work? First of all, do you do that process yourself?
No, I don't.
Oh.
I send them out to a company online. There's a lot of places that'll do it, like
Oh.
Bay Photo, for example, out in San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
And they'll ship it back to you in the mail. And they do really good quality.
Really?
You get really beautiful color and detail on the metal, and it'll last probably forever,
Sure.
as opposed to a paper print.
Okay. Interesting. How do you store an aluminum photograph?
Well, that's the nice thing about it. You could just store them in a box with a piece of cardboard in between.
Okay.
And it doesn't get scratched up so much like the other stuff.
Interesting. I've never heard of that process before.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
I've just been doing it myself for about a year,
Okay.
and now I don't print anything else on paper ever again. It's
How
just
did
metal.
you find out about this process in the first place?
I just happened to see one hanging in a gallery one time on metal, and I
Yeah.
said, this is cool.
Okay.
But it was pretty expensive at the time.
Right.
Now the price has come down. It's still expensive, but not so bad.
You're here, as I mentioned, on Monday evening, February the 12th. What will be happening at that presentation?
The show is the title is called "The Epic Adventures of a Massachusetts Bird Photographer."
Okay. That would be you.
Yep. And it's one of my first talks that I put together. I have 8 talks total,
I see.
and that's the first one that I've put together. So it's pretty much, if you call something epic, it is epic.
Right.
That's what I figure.
Okay. Because you said so. Okay.
So it's my adventures going through the swamps,
Yeah.
going to take pictures of birds, and I just share my stories of in my experiences.
Okay. So who do you think would find this, interesting? Would it be?
Millions of people.
Yeah, of course.
Because yeah, I did look up on the internet, and birding is the #2 hobby in the country.
Really? What's number one?
Gardening.
Oh, okay.
Gardening.
All right.
So there's lots of birders out there. So those are the people that come to my talk, birders
Okay.
and photographers.
I would think, right. Yeah.
And sometimes they'll get bird photographers,
Sure.
like myself.
Interesting.
Or some people will just come by because they think birds are pretty or they like nature, and they'll show up at my talk.
It sounds really fascinating and a lot of fun. You seem to be enjoying it
I do.
wholeheartedly, so yeah.
It's a livelihood that I enjoy, and someone once said if you if you find something that you love, you'll never work another
Yeah.
day in your life.
Yeah.
So that's how it is. That's probably how it is with you,
So, oh, absolutely.
right?
No question. We look forward to your presentation
you.
and the exhibit all month long too. If folks can't make it on the 12th, they can certainly see your work hanging at the library for the month of February.
Yep. Or they can go on to peterchristoff.com.
Okay.
And they can see probably a lot of the same photos that are in the gallery will be there if people want to look at them online.
Okay. And I take it, I'm guessing, all different times of the year, right? So different backgrounds. Or...
Yes. Yeah. There's not so many birds in the wintertime.
Okay.
But the spring is loaded. You know, with the spring migration, you get a lot of birds then.
Sure.
And right now, at this time of year, you get the snowy owls and the screech owls and a lot of other owls.
Okay. So, any other weird wildlife encounters while you've been out there taking pictures, Peter?
Oh, besides birds?
Yeah. I'm just curious
I
if
don't
a
usually
coyote
run
has come to visit or something of that
Yeah, I
nature.
ran into a coyote at Plum Island last week as
Okay.
I was leaving the refuge. He was crossing the road, but I don't see a lot of mammals.
Okay.
I sometimes wish I lived in Yellowstone, but not so many mammals around here.
Right.
Just birds.
Very good. Thanks again. Have a great time here.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Don't forget, if you'd like to get more information about this or any of the programs at the library, just go to their website. It's thomascranelibrary.org.